With the Olympics in full swing, the best athletes in the world have come together to go for the gold and the silver and the bronze. And you know, some of these athletes have been working on their sport since they were children. That really takes a lot of dedication. But you know, we all have things that we want to be really, really good at. You know, we're probably, none of us going to be in the Olympics, not too likely. But I know that I'm certainly not going to be doing what some of those gymnasts were doing, that's certain. So, but there are other areas in my life where I really feel like I want to excel, where I really want to be more and to do more. And in order to do that, we have to dedicate ourselves to paying attention to that area of our life where we want to have a greater feeling of success. And you know, it doesn't matter if it's in your family, your relationships, whether it's in your work, whatever area of life it is. Maybe it's your spiritual life. Maybe you want to work a little harder on bringing your spiritual life into your everyday life and to really live out of that. And when we do this, when we have these desires, you know, it's like the athletes. We don't just, you know, sit back and wait for it to happen. I mean, there's something we have to do. There's dedication that goes along with that. There's a lot of things that go along with making sure that we do the things that we do. Yesterday, I drove to Columbus to be with my family, but it wasn't my immediate family. It was my family that was my family for 30 years, and I didn't want to lose contact with them. I wanted to make sure that I still kept a relationship with the people that I grew to love over those 30 years. That takes a commitment to drive to Columbus and drive back the same day and then go to another function that evening. Caroline, Tom's mother, drove from Columbus this morning to see Tom play drums. And that takes a commitment, you know? It takes a commitment to make the effort to do what it is that you need to do in order to bring about this wonderful feeling that we have of success in the areas that we want success. And so, you know, if you were the person that you think you ought to be, what are those things that you would do in your world, in your family, in your relationships, what in your work? What are the things that you would do to make sure that you were successful in that area? I think that if we really thought about it, if we really took the time to say, okay, what is it? What is it that I need to do? What is it that I can do that is going to really bring me into this type of success that I'm looking for? And I think that it's time for all of us to do a little self-inventory. I think self-inventory is very important for us on many, many occasions in order to look at our life, to take stock and say, okay, this area here I've been neglecting a little bit. Maybe it's time for me to really bring it all together and take care of that area. And you know, those athletes, they practice hours and hours and hours and hours a day. Well, we have as many hours as they have. Now, obviously, we're not going to put all of those hours into one thing because we have very broad lives, but that's the sacrifice that they make. So, how could you go about becoming the person of your vision? Because we all have a vision of the kind of person we want to be. We all have that. And there are times when everyone feels pressure. Don't we all put pressure? Where does that pressure come from? Ourselves. You are so right. I see it in myself all the time, and I put this pressure on myself, and I think, why am I doing this? You know? Sometimes we say it's somebody else doing it to us. We do a lot of projection in that area, I've found. I have to look at myself a lot in that area of doing projection, you know. Well, so-and-so made me do it. And we all do this, but it's one of those things we want to stop doing. That shadow side of us is going to protect us as much as possible, but, we have to ultimately take responsibility. And so perhaps even though you think someone might be driving you, it's really yourself, and working under pressure is not easy. It's never easy. And the goals may even seem impossible. As impossible as walking on the water. Now, some of you may have heard the old story of the priest, the rabbi, and the unity minister who went fishing. They were out in the boat, and it was a really hot day, and the fish weren't biting very well, so the rabbi says, I think I'm going to go to the dock and get a cold drink. It's really, I'm really hot. So he steps out of the boat, he walks across the water, and he goes and gets his drink, and he's standing on the dock watching the guys, Priest says, you know what? It is hot out here. I'm going to go get a drink too. And so he steps out of the boat, walks across the water, and gets his drink. And the unity minister is sitting there really puzzled. He says, how in the world did they do that? But if they can do it, I should be able to do it too. So he steps out of the boat and sinks right straight to the bottom. And he's fighting his way back up, and he finally gets back on the boat, and he thinks, what happened? They did it. I must be able to do it. Stepped out of the boat again. Sinks to the bottom again. He does this several times. And finally, the priest and the rabbi, they're, standing under a shady tree on the shore, say to each other, do you think we ought to tell him where the rocks are before he drowns? Well, there are lots of rocks in life that we can walk on, and there are lots of steps that we can take that are going to keep us from drowning. In fact, are going to make us extremely successful in life. It's not difficult to do the impossible if you have the courage to launch out. If you have the courage to move out of your comfort zone, and if you happen to know where the rocks are. That really helps. Mm-hmm. So we know that Jesus, 2,000 years ago, truly did walk upon the water. And we know that he did these things because he knew where the rocks were. Now, I'm not saying it was some kind of a trick. What I'm saying is that there are principles and there are laws that we may not be aware of that allowed Jesus to truly walk on the water. This was just something he was able to do. It's like the Wright brothers at Kitty Hawk. That was a miracle to some people to fly, and yet they knew the laws of aerodynamics in order to build that first little airplane that took off for like how many seconds, 60 or something like that, which now we look up in the sky and we see jet planes flying across the country all of the time. In your autobiography, what do you expect of yourself? What is it that you would like to improve? And what achievements would you like to make in the next year or in the next week? What are those things that you would like to do? Sometimes we just settle. We settle for a mediocre performance, and we just say, oh, well, we're just average. Don't we all say that? We're just average? Well, you're not average. Every one of you in this room is above average. You are not just average. You have great potential within you. Ira Progoff, an outstanding psychologist and producer of the Progoff Intensive Journal Workshops. Anyone ever taken that, the Intensive Journal Workshops? Well, if they ever come around, I invite you to take them because they're very, very, very good. You learn a lot about yourself when you do. He says that neurosis occurs in the modern world not because of repressed fears, but because something creative and meaningful is seeking unsuccessfully to express itself in the life of the individual. He says that the frustration of potentiality is the root of neurosis. Man is not a bundle of repressions, but a bundle of possibilities. And the key to therapy lies in reactivating the process of growth. What we need to do is reactivate the process of our own growth. And sometimes we get so comfortable where we are. And we think, I've done a lot in my life. Now it's just time for me to sit back and relax. What happens then? We lose that zest for life. We lose that feeling of wonder and excitement and joy. And so it's just like when a chicken awakens to the fact that it's cramped inside this little egg and it's run out of food. And it's thinking, what now? But the natural thing for it to do, as God created it, is to peck its way out. To peck its way out. Now, that's just what it does. But sometimes we're afraid to peck our way out of our little shell because we don't know what's out there. And yet for the chick, what it finds is lots of seeds and worms. Well, probably we're not looking for seeds and worms. But we are looking for something better in our life. We are looking for something that is going to take us to a new level of being. And as we look for that, what are we going to find? We're going to find the best things that we're looking for. We're going to find those good things that we're looking for. Within each individual, there is this feeling sometimes of insufficiency and fear because we're all kind of leery of that unknown element of what it's going to be if we're different. What's that going to be like? And it's really kind of frightening. But, within each embryo or shell of a person, there is a greatness that can achieve great things. And we think we ought to do so. There's a wonderful world staring us in the face, filled with prospects and success. It's all there, with harmonious relationships, with peace and fulfillment, and it's been there all the time. You're not going to find a bunch of new stuff inside of you. It's all there already. All you have to do is just uncover it to peck your way out of the shell. But we will never enjoy it unless we break that shell and stir up the faith and step outside. You can't make a butterfly out of a caterpillar. And you can't make a successful person out of a plodding order taker. And yet, in a way, beyond knowing, the caterpillar makes its cocoon and then breaks loose as that beautiful winged creature of the sky. The eggshell breaks. And the eagle soars forth over the bottomless canyon as it flies, so soaring, so strong, so beautiful. And an inadequate salesman suddenly sees a new potential for himself and brings to the act that great potential that is within him. You all have known of people who are really great at what they do. I encountered one not too long ago. I decided that my car was just a mess. It was dirty. It was dirty inside. It was dirty outside. It looked like I lived in my car. And I decided one day, this car is not worthy of being called a beautiful car because I've let it get to be such a mess. So I decided I would take it in, and I had this little coupon for like $26, I think, to get my car detailed. And I pull up and I say, I want this done. I thought, this is really good. This is going to be great. I'll get everything done. And the salesman says to me, oh, this is good. This is good. Wouldn't you like to have, your dashboard cleaned and that, whatever it is, they spray on it, that's supposed to protect it and all that. Wouldn't you like to have that? It's only so much money. And I thought, well, yeah, I guess that would be nice. It would look, I want it to really look nice because it's a nice car. So I said, okay, I'll take that. And then he said, and wouldn't you like to have something done? I don't remember now what it was. And I thought, well, if I'm having it done, I guess I should have that done too. so yeah, I thought. And then he says, now, wouldn't you like to have your seats, all of your leather seats, taken care of and have them all? And I thought, no. I'm going too far here. Maybe next time, But this guy was good. He was good. When I got finished, it was $45. I wasn't doing very good math in my head, I'm afraid. But the car is beautiful, it looks nice, it looks like it should again. And, one of the rocks that we can rely on is to go with our strengths. That salesman had a strength in sales. I mean, God knows he could sell anything to anybody. Very charming, very, very nice man. So that's one of the things we go with. We don't go with something that we know we can't do. We don't go with something that we don't really have a great interest in, but think we would be successful and make a lot of money at it. We go with our strengths. We go with that thing that is within us that is ours to do, that is for us and us to do. So don't try to do something that you don't have an aptitude for, just because someone else wants you to do it. Another rock that you can walk on in these tricky waters called life is called to mind by the slogan, the incident is external, the reaction is your own. We talked about this last week. When we fall or fail, our response is all important. We can get up and start again and learn from our mistakes, or we can sit around and wallow in them and never do another thing because we failed once. I've known people who did that, and so have you. But we don't have to. We don't have to at all. We can learn from those mistakes. And no matter what our past performance has been, we can have more, do more, be more. And, all of our goals can be surpassed. Just like Michael Phelps, who won more gold medals than anyone else. I know he won more medals than anyone else has ever won in their career. And here he is. He's given his life to being excellent in what he does. And those goals and records are made to be broken. You can break your goals and records and go on to do even greater things. Break the shell and enter the wonderful world of prosperity and success. In the busy lives we lead, things are constantly happening around us. And some of the things that are happening are happening directly to us. And yet we can always say that we do not have to let that incident control who we are. Like the man who was asked, "How are you this morning?" And he answered, "I don't know, I haven't checked the stock market yet." If it's up, I'm having a great day. If it's down, the whole thing's down the tubes. And we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that at all. Actually, the stock market doesn't have any power over us in itself to make us elated or depressed. And no one has the power to make us angry or peaceful, although we often give it to them. And one of my favorite things is I'm not giving anyone the power to decide how I will be or act. So the incident is external, the reaction is our own. And we can determine that we will be joyous and enthusiastic and non-resistant and positive all day through. Remember the guy on What the Bleep? the doctor who said in the morning he decided what his day was going to look like, and he wrote it down in his book. He wrote down everything that he wanted to happen to him in that day. And at the end of the day, he looked at his list again, and almost everything that he put down had happened. Almost everything. And you know, I have noticed that if we set an intention for something, that it is going to happen. It not may happen. And I think this is where we all go just a little wrong. We think maybe it'll happen, because we're afraid that we'll be disappointed if it doesn't happen. But it's that maybe that keeps it from happening. It's the maybe. We have to stay away from maybe. We have to be positive and know that it's going to happen. And we have to stick with it, even though it looks like it's not going to. We have to stick with it. I'd like to share a poem with you entitled Become by William Arthur Ward. The more generous we are, the more joyous we become. The more cooperative we are, the more valuable we become. The more enthusiastic we are, the more productive we become. The more serving we are, the more prosperous we become. The more outgoing we are, the more helpful we become. The more curious we are, the more creative we become. And the more patient we are, the more understanding we become. The more persistent we are, the more successful we become. Another rock is dedication to what we're doing. And what comes to mind is Gabby Douglas in her dedication to her sport of gymnast, as a gymnast. She left home. She's a young girl. She left home for 2 years so that she could study with the person who could help her the most to become the world champion that she is. That took dedication. How many hours a day did she work on the uneven bars and the whatever all of those contraptions are that they fly through the airplane? It's the most amazing thing. It's the most amazing thing. There's a picture of her, and I think it's been on the screen. Maybe it's already been there with her, like, she's flying, literally flying. And I guess that's why they call her the flying squirrel. I thought it's the cutest thing I ever saw. But that took dedication. It didn't happen by accident. It happened because she put everything into it. Everything. Every bit of herself. And so, one of those rocks that we can walk on is the power of the plus. Life seems to be made up of the good and the bad and the bitter and the sweet. And yet, as the adage goes, into each life some rain must fall, and we had some today, and thank you, God. And you can turn every minus into a plus. If it's raining, you sell umbrellas. Or plant tomatoes. The individual who continues using the plus factor in life builds up within them a nature that is a magnetic force. It actually acts as a magnet to bring the energy that you're looking for to continue to do what you're doing to you. It actually brings it to you, and it becomes a beautiful thing. Just becomes a beautiful thing. So we can be attracting good to ourselves in strange and wonderful ways. You know, things and wonderful things happen all of the time. I know they happen in my life. I know they happen in yours. And I think sometimes we just don't pay them enough attention. We just do not pay enough attention to that wonder that is ours. And so we know that the Olympians walk on water. but only because they know where the rocks are. They know all of those things that create success in their lives. And they demonstrate the power of the plus. Remember that there is more to you than you ever dreamed. There is so much more to you than you ever thought there could be. Your autobiography is really the blueprint of who you can be. You have it in you already. That blueprint was placed there in the beginning. And so you can do the impossible if you launch out in faith and vision. Keep your vision in front of you. Keep it there and have faith and know that that vision is happening right now in you if you know where the rocks are. God bless you.